Hey guys, Phillips here. This video is going to be on a Frostfire build. It's a 6-piece sentry build based around the Kridershot, and it's primarily fire damage oriented, and you're just using the Kridershot to trigger the Cull of the Week with the Frost Arrow. So in 2.1 they addressed some of the issues with the triple spinders on the six-piece sentry build. So when you have the 6-piece Marauder and you use triple spinders, it used to slow down the attack speed. And so they fixed that, so the triple spinders are doing really well. And they also fixed the Cull of the Week, so your sentries used to not benefit from Cull of the Week. Now they trigger Cull of the Week and they benefit from Cull of the Week, so it's one of the strongest damage passives we have. It's nice to be able to take advantage of that. And the elemental arrow is one of the fastest shooting spinders with the sentries. So you get a lot of frost arrows out there. You get the slow from the frost arrow, the 1 second slow, triggering the Cull of the Week, amplifying your fire damage, making your fire hit even harder. So you got the frost arrow, cluster arrow loaded for bear for the single target damage burst, Spitfire sentry for the rockets with the ballistics, vault for the mobility, and at a certain point, maybe around difficulty rift level 30 to 35 or so, you're gonna probably, depending on the gear level, want to pick up either lingering fog or healing vapor. I usually go with the lingering fog because you already have some cooldown reduction most of the time in a 6-piece sentry build, and you can pretty much have 100% smoke screen for until you run out of discipline. So you know, for maybe a few casts in a row, so between 3 to 4.5, maybe even 6 seconds, you'll be able to just chain smoke screen to get out of that sticky situation to avoid the damage. Healing vapor works well too. But between the Templar heal, the potion, the healing isn't really an issue. It's the damage avoidance that really makes a big difference. Multi-shot arsenal, more fire damage, AoE, some rockets there. You got the companion with the 6-piece, getting the value there. The passives are going to kind of change depending on the difficulty. I was running this build up into level 35, 36 greater rifts, so depending on where you're at, you might want to change some of the passives. And the higher difficulty, ambush starts to be not as good, and I usually switch to awareness, and then sometimes I'll swap out ballistics for perfectionist, but it's kind of a balancing act here between the damage and damage reduction, so you want to have a little bit of both. You want to have a good balance between each. So that's what the spec looks like. The items that you kind of need, obviously the Kridershot, 6-piece Marauder, the rucksack's going to make it a lot stronger, and the taskers are doing really well with the fixes to the triple spinders and the addition of the elemental arrow into the spec. The taskers increase the frequency of the elemental arrows significantly, which is going to help keep Cull of the Week out and snare the monsters, and it's going to increase the damage from your other fire sources. It also is effective as a generator. The frost arrow hits quite hard and it has good area damage. It's going to give you something to do in your downtime between casting sentries. So that's doing really well. So now we're going to show a little bit of gameplay with the build, and I'll kind of talk about the strategy. It's pretty straightforward. Basically just want to cast your sentries. Every time it's up, you pretty much get your sentry out. And when you're doing the Greater Rift, you want to maximize your damage output, so you're going to want to, cast the wolf pretty much every time it's up, just even if it's not on an elite, just gaining that damage, even against the trash, is going to increase the run speed, so you kind of want to just keep rotating the wolf every time it's up, You know, on T6 on lower difficulties, I would usually save the companion more for the taunt and the crowd control with the boar. But again, to maximize the damage, you kind of just want to use it every time it's up, you know. Don't wait too long before you actually use it. And so this is a 33 Rift. We got a conduit pylon, so that definitely helped. But this build does really well on the higher difficulties. And yeah, I mean, you just kind of keep your elemental arrow. You want to proc the cull of the week with the elemental arrow, so just rotate between using your extra resources on the cluster arrows, and you can see, you know, I'll spend all my resources and use the health globes with the Reaper wraps to rotate in even more cluster arrows to increase the damage output. And you basically just pretty standard sentry build. You just kind of kite them around in your sentries. So we'll just kind of let this rift play out so you can see the gameplay.
Still waiting.
So that's it. Here's one more look at the spec. You know, like I said, there's going to be some flexibility here and there. But, you know, other than that, it's a really good build. Nice damage potential and pretty good crowd control as well with the slow. Thanks for watching. See you next time.